All right, here we go. So welcome to the 8th session of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Series. The title of this session is Communications for Events. So let me go ahead and share my screen quickly to show you tonight's agenda. So this is what we're looking at. We're going to do welcome. We're going to introduce ourselves. First up will be Rebecca to talk about the Neighborhood Nugget, annual mailings, and roll-off postcards. Next up, we'll have Nicole Snook to talk about canvassing and signage and some of the more grassroots approaches. And then I'll talk a little bit about our ward newsletter. And then we'll wrap it up with a couple of references and practical tips before we do our question and answer. And then a quick reminder, our final session of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Series is March 4th. It's Deliberate Strategies for Inclusivity. So once we get the introductions going, I will email this out to everyone, so you'll have it for whatever your needs might be. So let's go ahead and get this started. So I'll just call on folks. Dorothy, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Dorothy. I'm with the Brickton neighborhood, and we're starting to, let's see, we're going to have a meeting here pretty soon to see who is interested in revitalizing our association. Let's see, anything else?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Okay, I'm going to be doing two things at once, so I'm listening, but I'm going to cover me up.
That is okay. That's sort of that's how I do it too. So the two things at once anyway. All right, next up we have Faye.
I'm Faye Goodspeed with the Limberlost Neighborhood Association. We had our first Zoom meeting last month, very successful. Had some good input, and we're able to answer questions immediately instead of saying we'll get back to you. So that was a great thing.
Excellent. Next up is Neto from our office, Ward 3.
Hi, Neto Portillo, Ward 3, in the black hole of Zoomland. But I'm here, and I'm going to go to Flowing Wells in a little while, and I'll send your regards to them.
Thank you so much. Next is Lee.
Hi, I'm a PC in precinct 166, and unfortunately I don't attend my neighborhood meeting because it's at the exact same day and time as the LD3 meeting. But it's how it goes.
Well, welcome tonight.
And hello to everyone.
Hi.
All right, next up is Linda. Linda, you're muted.
I'm the secretary of Dodge Flower.
All right, well, welcome in.
Hi.
Okay.
Next up is William.
Hi.
All right, there we go. Will Nelson, president of the El Cortez Heights Neighborhood Association.
All right, excellent. All right, Martha.
Martha Ritalik, Vice President, El Cortez Heights Neighborhood Association.
Excellent, well represented. Next up is Mike.
Hey, I'm not being unsociable. I just got in the door and dropping bags and stuff because I've been delivering food all day. So if the video, I'll be here when I'm here. Mike, I'm a resident of Tucson House and a resident of the Barrio Blue Moon neighborhood and involved in Thrive Neo 5. And I'm glad whenever I can attend, I love attending.
Excellent, and thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here. All right, next up is Nancy.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nancy Rita of Keeling Neighborhood Association. Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. After Nancy, we have Alice.
I'm Alice Rowe from Glenwood Elm Neighborhood Association, and I'm probably going to have to cut out because there are competing Zooms tonight, and I know I can get this one on recorded eventually. So, but thank you very much for holding it. It's an interesting topic.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bye, Alice. Bye, Alice.
And then next up we have, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Kishore?
That's correct. Hello, everyone. I was interested in this call, thought I was in Ward 3, but apparently I'm not. I'm in District 1. But I'm a small business owner in Tucson, so I was just curious as to the topic and wanted to find out more. So
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Allowing me to participate.
Well, welcome. All right. So, and then I'll introduce them each individually for their section, but our two presenters are Rebecca Roop and Nicole Snook. Our first presenter is going to be Rebecca. There he is. Rebecca. She is in the Planning and Development Services Department, and she has been working on neighborhood issues ever since I started working at the city. So I know she's a planner by nature or by trade, and I'm sure she'll give you a little bit more of her background, but we are excited to have Rebecca here, and I'm sure she's probably been in contact with some of you guys over the years. So Rebecca, if you want to go ahead and take it away on some of the services the city offers.
Great. Why don't I'm going to just introduce myself for a couple of minutes and say a couple of things, and then I will go into a PowerPoint I've prepared so you can follow along a bit better. As Matt said, I'm a planner, and I'm also about a year ago, the city manager asked if I would also be the neighborhood engagement specialist. So that seems to be something I've done for a long time, but it's been added as a moniker. Really great seeing all of you. I've worked with a number of you. One thing I wanted to say very quickly is it's quite exciting. I'm getting more and more calls from neighborhoods that want to reactivate, that haven't been active for a while. And I think it's in part because the pandemic has really emphasized how helpful it can be to have the neighborhood level communication. And so I'm going to various virtual meetings. I'm going to a meeting outdoors on Sunday to talk with neighbors who are interested in getting organized again. This is something we see neighborhoods sometimes get a little less active and then more, but this is rather exciting. The other thing I wanted to say is that I work with, as Matt said, with Planning and Development Services and with the Neighborhood Resources section. And we're going to try to do some pickup of workshops where Ward 3 is leaving off. What they've done has been fabulous, just great. I know many neighborhoods have appreciated, and we'll be getting word out about a workshop that will be on March 29th, which will have a couple of guests talking further about engagement strategies. So I just wanted to say those couple of things. And with that, let me go into tonight's topic. Okay, so then I want to go to the beginning, right? Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a couple of the ways, couple of the options Neighborhood Resources has to allow you to communicate events. So we have the Neighborhood Nugget, which I expect many of you get. This is something that we introduced a couple of years ago to try to have more regular communication with neighborhoods. So the Nugget is a weekly email with a nugget of information determined of potential interest to neighborhoods. So it can be meeting announcements, project announcements, and I put up here the one that just went out yesterday, which is featuring these wonderful sessions that Ward 3 has done, both showing people where they can listen to the recordings and also this session and then the March 4th session. So it's a perfect example. But you too can submit an event to be published in the Neighborhood Nugget. And you can do that by sending me an email. And most of you probably know the city formula for emails. It's always the first name, the dot, the last name at tucsonaz.gov. But I'm assuming Matt will post this PowerPoint so it will be available to get that information. The other thing that I'm suggesting people do is to copy and another email address, and particularly during the pandemic, staff are doing a variety of things, and it's good often I find to have emails go to two places. So I'm suggesting the second one is our neighborhood@tucsonaz.gov, which both Becky Flores, who many of you have probably know, she's worked for the city for years and with neighborhoods, and I both look at. And then to sign up for the Neighborhood Nugget, all you have to do is type into your browser City of Tucson Neighborhood Resources. And when the page opens, you can just scroll down to Neighborhood Nugget, open it, and follow the instructions for subscribing. And anybody can subscribe. It was intended for neighborhoods and neighborhood leaders, but it's got a lot of good information that I think is valuable to others, to our small business owner today and others. So I encourage you to do that. We used to send them always on Mondays. During the pandemic, we just made it weekly. And that sometimes works better for how our information comes in. But please, if you have something you'd like to share with other neighborhoods, please let us know, and we will consider it for a nugget. Neighborhood mailings. I know a lot of you are familiar with these, but I wanted to go back through this. And I know a lot of you will groan when I go through the fact that we only have one city-funded mailing per fiscal year at this point. It's been that way for some years now, when there was some budget tightening. But a fiscal year, we always like to remind people, is July 1st to June 30th. And if you're not certain whether you've used your mailing for the fiscal year, you can always reach out and we will check for you. So mailings can be newsletters up to 4 pages. And so you could have really a 1-page flyer up to a 4-page newsletter. And you can do a postcard, and it can be a 4x6 or a quarter of a sheet postcard, or a 5x5, 5.5 by 8.5, sorry. And that's a half a sheet. So 4x6 or 4.5 by 8.5. Mailing should be formatted, though we're happy to help if that's a challenge for folks. People have been pretty good, and if that's not your skill, there are almost always people in every neighborhood who enjoy doing this, may not like to come to meetings and other things, but are really good at this designing of mailings. Mailings are printed in black and white. The city pays for black and white, but we have neighborhoods who want them in color, and we can arrange to have the neighborhood pay for the difference. So we have a great vendor who's incredibly cooperative, and we do that periodically. Newsletters should be received by Neighborhood Resources 18 days in advance of when you want recipients to receive them. Now, our vendor turns things around generally much faster than that, but we don't want to make, promises that they may not be able to keep for one reason or another. So we always say this 18 days, and then you get the happy surprise if it's a lot faster. Postcards should be received by Neighborhood Resources 10 days in advance of when you want recipients to receive. And finally, the mailing should be sent to Neighborhood Resources at that neighborhood at tucsonaz.gov. And then I suggest copying me. Becky Flores watches that neighborhood webpage site regularly, and I take a look at it. But again, having 2 emails, I think, is always helpful, and particularly in these more challenging times. And then I was going to show you a couple of samples. I know a lot of you know this, but this is a 4-page layout. And then this is another 4-page layout. Now you can see there's some color on that. That would come out in black if the city were funding it, but if the neighborhood chose to have color, then we would get that estimate and the neighborhood would pay the difference. This is a postcard that was recently done by Rincon Heights. And it looks a little funny, but it's a half-a-page postcard, and the top piece would be put against the back angle, you know, turned and then against the back. So you're seeing the bottom piece is the front with, they have a barcode there for their virtual meeting, and then the white space is where the label goes. So there are creative things one can do. This is a case where the neighborhood paid for the color. And then finally, this is a black and white. This is Bricta. Dorothy is with us tonight from Bricta, and this is their postcard that they sent out to try to reactivate, get people to come to a meeting and talk about reactivating the neighborhood. And then I just had the one side, but this is the 4x6 postcard. So just keep in mind that there are variations and a lot of creative things you can do. I'm always impressed with the design and creativity of many of our neighborhoods. And then finally, I wanted to talk about this. This is something that we negotiated some years ago when the mailings got cut back to 1 mailing a year. We were looking for ways that neighborhoods might be able to get additional information out. So as many of you know, Environmental Services provides cleanups. And with the cleanup, they provide a postcard. Now, it's up to you whether you want the postcard that's on the application form. And then you have the opportunity to add on the postcard a meeting reminder. So where I have the green arrow on this template that Environmental Services use, you can give them a line about an upcoming meeting. So so that's a little additional way to get information out about a meeting that you don't have to pay for and will go to every neighborhood. Now, one thing I noted when I was putting this together is that while the application for the cleanup shows that you want a postcard or you don't want a postcard, it doesn't seem to include a place for this extra line. So if you were filling it out and you wanted the meeting reminder, I would just send a note along, but I'm also going to point that out to Environmental Services that it might be nice if there was a place you could just write that on the application form. So this was a useful exercise because I discovered that. And then finally, I wanted to call attention to the Neighborhood Resources website, where you can find information about the communication options I just talked to you about, as well as other information. We are looking at upgrading our Neighborhood Resources website. We've done some drafts, and so this may change in format at some point, but it'll pretty much have the same kind of information. I've put arrows next to the 3 options I talked about tonight: the mailings, the cleanups, and the neighborhood nugget. I think the easiest way to get to this website is just to write City of Tucson Neighborhood Resources into your browser, and this will come up as the official website. You can also put in PDSD Tucson and get the homepage, and you'll see neighborhood resources to the left. And then finally, I wanted to just thank all of you for all you do on behalf of our neighborhoods. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That's a lot of good information. We'll have time for Q&A at the end as well, but does anybody have any questions right now?
Yes.
For Rebecca? Go.
Yeah, really quickly. Margie Mortimer.
Yes, go ahead. Oh, and
Margie. Oh,
Rebecca.
And
Yeah.
Margie, really quick, since I forgot, I was going to do this since you came in late. But could you introduce yourself really quickly and then go
Oh,
ahead?
Margie Mortimer from Modern Paul Neighborhood Association.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, I'm really had to drive across town. I wanted to ask Rebecca, when is the end of the fiscal year?
So it's July 1st to June 30th, Margie. So it's the city fiscal year. That's how it works.
Okay.
And if you have any question about whether you've used a mailing in a fiscal year, just write to me or Becky and we'll let you know.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great to hear you.
Same here.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. If there's no other questions for Rebecca, we will turn it over to Nicole Snook from Flowing Wells. So Nicole has been a leader in her neighborhood watch, and we're throwing it over. And Nicole, please introduce yourself. So the idea here is to kind of share what some of her ideas have been, or successes have been, with kind of the more grassroots kind of outreach for neighborhood events. And then something I forgot to mention when we started, this session is kind of designed to dovetail from the last session where we talked about COVID-friendly events. So if you need ideas for like what events to have, go ahead and if you weren't able to make the last session, go ahead and you can review that session on YouTube. So without further ado, Nicole, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Nicole Snook. I live in the Flowing Wells neighborhood, and I represent the Flowing Wells Estates, which is our subdivision's neighborhood watch. And I operate on a much smaller scale than the larger neighborhood associations around town in general, but we've had a lot of success on the smaller scale, and that I wanted to share with you. So I am sharing my screen, and you should be able to see our website. As a testament to these webinars that Ward 3 has been hosting, I was inspired to create a website for our neighborhood watch. I've used other social media to get information out to our neighbors, but I went ahead and designed this website, and I can share with you the link if you want to take a look at it. It's my first website. There's a lot of room for improvement, and I'm adding to it all the time. So right now we are meeting virtually, and we do have monthly meetings. So one of the things that the city and the police department will tell you is when you're having neighborhood watch groups, that you are required to have one meeting every year. We have found that having monthly meetings has been very successful in maintaining the integrity of our group and making sure that we're staying on top of things and communicating with our neighbors more often than once a year. A lot can happen in a year. A lot can happen in a week. So we meet once a month, and in fact, we have a meeting this Saturday. So our group members today, the way that I communicated with them, and I do so every month, is via text message and with the link to the virtual meeting, which is a Zoom link. And people have been able to participate that way. There are certain people who want to meet face to face, and I have to be strict right now. Like, no, we can't. Like, just deal with it. And if you want information about what happened in the meeting, you can go to our website and read the agenda. So that's how I've circumnavigated that issue. The other thing that I wanted to share with you that I was asked to specifically share with you is about our canvassing protocols and what we've done as we've gone door to door to get people involved, and our signage. So the first thing I will share with you are some examples of the signs that are in our neighborhood. These signs go up right before the meeting. Hopefully you can see this. Hopefully it's big enough. Let me know if it's not, I can make it bigger. So this is an example of the sign that tells us our slogan, where the meeting is. It's normally held at the Old Times Cafe, and it's always on a Saturday at 4. So we got these permanent signs made because this doesn't ever change. The only difference now is that it is virtual, and it's still happening at 4 o'clock on a Saturday. We've also distributed the signs in different formats to neighbors who wanted to put a sign in front of their house. So this is a standing sign that was given to a neighbor. A couple of other neighbors wanted banners, and these are strategically placed at important intersections, like at the end of a street where neighbors are going to see it. So these were made locally. There's lots of places where you can get banners and signs made, and they were paid out of pocket. So we have no budget. So everything that we do is on a donation basis, or pay for it out of our own pocket. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to show was, how do I get rid of this banner? Ah, awesome. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to show is some direct targeting flyers that have gone out. The first one that went out was to indicate that we were restarting our Neighborhood Watch program to include more of the streets. So first, our Neighborhood Watch program was just Windsor, and now it includes 5 streets. So this was the flyer. It was a full 8.5 by 11 piece of paper that I printed out on the computer and went door to door and either knocked on the door or taped it to the door, depending on whether or not the person was home. Told them that we were doing this. And this was actually for our first meeting when we re-upped the Neighborhood Watch to include the rest of the neighborhood, because normally we were only watching one street. From this, I learned that there are people in our neighborhood who speak Vietnamese. And so I used Google Translate as best as I could to translate a message here that said to, please join our neighborhood. It had our slogan in Vietnamese and where the meeting is at the Old Times Cafe at 4 p.m. Also did it in Spanish for our Spanish speaking neighbors. Those are the languages that are represented in our neighborhood. Your neighborhood may be different, but there are lots of useful tools out there for translating and getting to know your neighbors, and whether or not they can translate something for you is always helpful and appreciated. When we've had greening and cleaning events, I print out a strip of paper that says the location of the event, the date, the time. And I always provide the tools and gloves from Tucson Clean and Beautiful. And I ask for water and snack donations. So volunteers are more likely to come if they're going to be fed. I'm a teacher, and I know students are more likely to come to an event on a Saturday when it's not a school day if they're going to be fed free food. And so for any cleaning event, water and snacks are always appreciated. And then also the other thing is to make events and everything that you're doing to try and think of everybody in mind and make it accessible for everybody. So there may be somebody in your neighborhood who is disabled or differently abled. I myself have some disabilities that prevent me from doing certain things. And so there should always be an activity or something that is age appropriate or ability appropriate at whatever event you're having. So I always have something that children can do, and I always have something that an older person or a person with a physical disability that can't do bending or lifting or digging to do, so that everybody can feel a part of the group. They don't want to be left out just because of their age or their ability level. So I'm very open to that and cognizant of that. That comes from being a teacher. And I come up with creative ways to have them do that. The last thing I wanted to share was, so I do have an agenda that goes up on our website every month and also at every meeting. And just in this meeting, I always include what I've learned at these webinars in our meetings since I started. I'm going to the Flowing Wells Neighborhood Association meeting after this, and I will be typing up notes for that. So it's timely. I always have timely information to give to the neighbors. I have a direct link to the YouTube channel that Matt includes the recordings of these meetings on, so that people who aren't attending can watch what we've talked about if they're interested. And I also added the Neighborhood Nuggets link here from what Rebecca was talking about. I had never heard of it. I know people are interested in reading things, so I've included that, and that the neighbors will see that this Saturday when they log on. The last thing I wanted to tell you is that I am not afraid to reach out to people who other people may say are not approachable, or they are part of the problem, or they want to be left alone. And I do direct contact with those people. Right now during the pandemic, it's been mostly phone calls and actual letters written and mailed to these people to ask them to be a part of our group. And it costs the cost of a stamp and the cost of my time to write the letter. And most recently, I've reached out to the Flamingo Palms community, which is on Prince Road, 1455, because we would like to, one of the things that our neighborhood recognizes is that there are several mobile home communities that surround us, and they are part of our community. And so I reached out to the manager. Whether or not I had luck with that, I reached out to the owner, and that involved a letter being written to a place in California. And that resulted in a phone call from the owner. It resulted in a conversation, finding out, who we are, what we do, and how we would like to invite them to be part of our group, that it's in the best interest of their residents, our residents, the neighborhood in general, Tucson as a greater focus. And so I agreed to get them started as a small community within our larger community. So within their trailer mobile home park, they're going to be receiving this survey just with basic information. And I'm going to reach out to them individually so that they can voice their concerns, and then develop a plan so that they can focus on their community and make it better, and then join us in our larger effort as the neighborhood that surrounds their mobile home park. So this is a new thing. It's been on our agenda for years to try and get these people involved, and we've had some luck, no luck, some luck. It's been up and down, and we're really going after it this time. So hopefully we'll have some good news in the next couple of months from this community. And that's what we have done. I don't know if I've left anything out, Matt, that you would like me to talk about.
I think that really does covers it quite a bit for, like I said, that kind of grassroots sort of block by block type outreach for these events, and then just generally. So yeah, no, that's great. Does anybody, like I said, we'll have Q&A at the end as well, but if anybody has a quick question for Snook, go ahead.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Margie.
What size neighborhood do you have?
Right, we have about 80 households involved in our watch. There are probably about 120 homes.
Oh, wow, okay.
We're just a neighborhood, the subdivision within the Flowing Wells neighborhood. We are not the Flowing Wells Neighborhood Association.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Yes, and for those of you who are part of the larger neighborhood associations, I would recommend finding out those people who can be block captains and reach those smaller groups of people in a more timely manner than waiting once a year for a meeting, or however often you have your meeting, or the time that waiting for the ability to have a mailing go out.
Hey, Nicole, when you made those strips of announcements, what did you do with those strips? I'm curious.
I went up to the door and knocked on the door, and if they weren't home, I just taped it to the doorknob.
Okay, so you cut them apart and put them on people's doors, basically.
Yes, I just cut them, but the point is also to meet the neighbors.
Yeah.
I always wear a neighborhood watch shirt. When I knock on a door, I always say it's Nicole Snook from Neighborhood Watch, so that they know that it's me. They may not know me, but they know it's, a legitimate person. Whenever there's a new person in the neighborhood, except that the pandemic has really cut this down, I've asked the Old Times Cafe for a little, like a business card that offers like buy one, get one free. For the cafe, but also as a welcome to the neighborhood. And so that involves going to the door and introducing myself.
Excellent. All right, I think there's some great strategies there. Thank you, Snook, for sharing. We really do appreciate it. All right, and then so Sarah from our office has joined us. Sarah, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. My name is Sarah, and I have the pleasure of working with Matt and Ernesto in the Ward 3 office and many of our fabulous Ward 3 neighborhoods and constituents. So it's nice to see you all. And it was so great to get to pop in and hear a bit of Rebecca's presentation and Nicole's presentation. So thanks so much for sharing tonight.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then next up on the agenda is me. So if anybody needs to find something else to do, go ahead. But I wanted to sort of highlight some of the resources that we have at Ward 3. So I will really quickly share my screen to this one. Here we go. All right. Can everybody see the Ward 3 homepage?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, I just wanted to bring your attention to our homepage. It's very straightforward. So the first thing I wanted to highlight is we have a weekly newsletter that goes out. We would like to hope everybody's familiar with it. But if you're not, if you'd like to sign up, go ahead to our homepage, which is just tucsonaz.gov/Ward3. And you could just enter your email address here, and then you'll be signed up. And this is our most recent edition, and this is something that I know we work really hard on in the ward. And what we do in it is we like to highlight when we can ward events and things that are going on. So, for example, this most recent feature that went out last Friday, we talked about the Ready Set Rec program that Parks and Rec is doing. It's a hopefully you get a chance to read it, but it's an activation Parks and Rec event at Jacobs Park coming up, and we wanted to highlight this as an event. And then we have a space set aside in every newsletter for our neighborhood and coalition meetings. So if you're having an event, your regular neighborhood meeting, if it's Zoom or whatever the case may be, let us know, and we can throw these in, and anybody who's interested can read about it and contact you or your group about getting more information. So this is another one that I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of, and we let me know, let Sarah know, Neto and Kristen in our office all work on this together. So just feel free to share if you want us to help you get the word out. And then another The other thing I wanted to point out is Nicole made mention of this already, but we have all of our previous sessions on YouTube at our YouTube page. So if you wanted to go back, and we have a specific session on Instagram, I know some of you were there. So and as well as Facebook and Twitter was another one of our previous sessions. So if you're interested in sort of the social media component of getting the word out for events, please do go back and check those out, as a lot of the posts and different things can be, the content in there is pretty applicable to trying to get the word out for events. And then one last note that I did want to share under practical tips and Sarah, feel free to jump in if I miss any others, but I know the one we wanted to highlight the most is when you have an event, please create some sort of sign-in sheet or way to capture people's information, so that way you can keep them engaged with however you communicate, whatever is in line with your communication strategy, whether you have a newsletter, whether you want to make sure if you have mailings outside of the city mailings, whatever your kind of strategy is, just try to capture their information so that they can remain active and engaged with your neighborhood association or group. So that it could be really easy to overlook that critical step, because it's sort of a minor detail, but it has a lot of practical implications. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share with that we have at Ward 3. Sarah, did you want to add anything to what I mentioned?
Well, I think you hit all of the important stuff, Matt. And the one small thing I would add, and I was thinking about this as Nicole was sharing some of her strategies, is just that, hopefully we are going to be in a kind of a post-pandemic moment in the, sometime in the not so distant future. And that the word office can also be a site of resources for you if you are needing to print some flyers and ran out of ink or don't have a printer at home. You can use our printer. I know, we have provided, door hangers to Fay, for the Limberlost Neighborhood Association before. So there are resources that we have at the ward office that we can very easily make available to neighborhoods, so that you don't have to have a paper cutter at home, right? If you only ever need that for flyers for the neighborhood association, et cetera. So we can kind of give you some backup there. So just feel free to contact us and let us know when you have something like that coming up, and we can kind of coordinate to make sure that support is there. I think that was the only other thing that I wanted to share.
Gotcha. And in that same vein too, I know us, Sarah and I, and I'll even volunteer Rebecca for this, but we're available to sort of brainstorm and troubleshoot ideas. If you're working on something, an event, or just trying to get the word out. We interact with a lot of different neighborhoods, and we've seen what some organizations have had success with, and it might be we might have some suggestions that might be helpful, or at least we would like to think we do. So so that was another point. So now we're sort of completed the presentation part of this. Does anybody have any general questions about? Oh, Faye, go ahead.
Matt, on both the Paul's letter and sometimes the neighborhood nugget, there's good information, and I try to print it out like in a 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it usually comes out like really small, and it's really hard to enlarge to put up on our community board at our park. Is there any way to change that format, or something that I could, when you see something and it's a 3 by 5 on the board, it's kind of looks like it's not very important. If it's 8.5 by 11, people really pay attention. And I've tried some different things, cut and paste, put it on my desktop. Sometimes it works, but it's not consistent. So I don't know if there's another way to format that so we could actually print it off and get it up on our board. So thanks.
Let me, this is Rebecca Fay, let me look into that. I know the Nugget is a particular software and format, but it's very possible that we could do it so that there was a printable version also. So let me look into that. That's a really good point. The more you can do, take that kind of information and make small posters. If you have places, a bulletin board, businesses that are willing to, you know, maybe have you put something up, that's another great way to get the word out.
Yeah, we've got two community event boards in the park, one on the north side, one on the south side. And we have seen people looking and actually reading it, and we try to keep it up to date. I don't like old stuff on there. I'd rather it was blank than to have old information, because that means we're not paying attention. So thank you. That was my—
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you said that. I don't know that I've ever tried to print out a nugget at 8.5 by 11, so that's really good information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, and we can look at that too. Well, we might have to. I've also never tried to print it out, so we could look at that and see if we could troubleshoot that here in our office to see if there might be an easy fix. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm not computer super literate, so if it's not super simple, it doesn't happen. So thank you, both of you. Appreciate that.
No problem. Matt, I had another little suggestion following up on Nicole's presentation, which I really, really liked. Nicole, congratulations on everything you're doing. That was really a great presentation. One of the things that I've done in the past, this was some time ago with Jefferson Park, was they printed out door hangers, and you can get door hangers at like Kelly Paper or a place like that. Obviously that's a bit more expensive than doing the strip, but it certainly is something that often stands out. So if you had something that, was where you really wanted to make a statement, that can be helpful. And I remember one of the things Jefferson Park did, and you've probably heard me say this before, was to have them distributed, I think, on a Saturday and let people know. And they got a lot of people coming out to distribute who were walking their dogs anyhow, who weren't that interested in going to meetings, but were very interested in participating in some way. So having some events where people can feel like they're doing something, but they may not have the time or the ability to do things as regularly as other people, can also be a really nice way to get people together and to get the information out.
I know, yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense, if you're walking your dog or out for your morning jog or whatever that might be, if you're there and you want to be active in your neighborhood, it's kind of like hitting two birds with one stone. Absolutely.
We don't like to hit birds, Matt, with stones.
It's true. Yeah, that's true. It's like seeing two birds on one branch when you're bird watching.
Matt, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
For you? On your Ward 3 webpage, can you put a link to the homeless outreach and Sergeant Jolsing? That would probably be a good thing. We seem to be having our issues have settled down in our neighborhood a little bit because of their participation. But I think there's a lot of people that really don't know what to do if there is a homeless situation and whom to contact. I think that's the big thing. And I know they can go through you, Matt, but you've got enough on your platter rather than a plate. That might be a good thing. That would be an easy link to put on.
Yeah, no, that's something we could definitely do. Thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, we try to make the website as useful as possible. So yeah, thank you. Sarah.
I have a question for Nicole. Nicole, of the different tools that you use to get the word out about neighborhood watch events, are there any that you find to be more effective than others? Do you text? Yeah. So just you keep like a text tree. Okay. Very good to
And
know.
I maintain the text numbers, and I don't share anybody's personal information. I let them know that it's so that the alerts go out from one place, and so we're not having a lot of back and forth and misinformation.
That's great. Margie, you have your hand up?
Yes, sir. So I was wondering, maybe, I don't know who to direct this to, but maybe Rebecca. How or where can we find the number of households in our neighborhood?
So I can help you with that. We can get you the mailing list for your neighborhood, which will give you, pretty good number there. If you need more specific kind of census information, let me know. But if you're really just wanting to know how many addresses in your neighborhood, we can certainly do that. Just let me know and we'll get that for you.
Okay.
Rebecca, this is Dorothy. I would very much like the Brickta neighborhood mailing list.
Sure.
And you've got my email?
Yep, I do, Dorothy.
Thank
And
you
I
very,
will-
very much.
I will be at your meeting. I think it's February 28th, if I remember correctly.
You are correct.
Okay. And Margie, I'll just make a note right now and get that for you, okay?
Thank you.
I have
It
one other
may-
question.
It may not be till the beginning of the week because I think Becky is off tomorrow and she's the person who she's the person who has the access to those, but I may be able to get somebody else to help me. So
Yeah, no,
either
that's
tomorrow or
fine.
the beginning of the week. Okay.
That's
Right.
fine because we've got a huge neighborhood, but I
You
mean,
do.
so Rebecca, and but I was want to get a number to try to work at something to get the information out to these folks and how to do that. So because we also do the banners in our neighborhood. We've been doing that for quite a, and that's very helpful also. So
yeah.
I have one other question. This is Dorothy again. So the people who come on the 28th, how do I capture their information, their name and information? Should I have them put their information in the chat and then have a secondary person write down their names and numbers? Or
they can be captured in the meeting and we can ask who's doing that for you at Ward 1. Just went out of my head. Jasmine. But you can also ask people to identify themselves in the chat. But
so I can ask Jasmine to capture all the info, like name, phone number, and emails.
And one of the go ahead.
Matt can talk to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt. This speaks to one of our first webinars.
Yeah.
So one of the features with Zoom, especially if you record it, it captures not only visually what happens, but it does capture the chat. So you can record the meeting and everybody can enter their chat everybody can enter their information into the chat. And then after the meeting, you have a readout essentially or a transcript of it, and then you can kind of cut and paste it into a Excel sheet or whatever you're going to use. So yeah, and then Nicole just sent information in the chat. You can create a Google form and send out a link. That's another option as well. So you should be able to capture the information digitally without having to write it down longhand. But that is indeed an option.
Okay, so that's something I would ask Jasmine to do, right?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to her, Dorothy, and be sure that she's conversant and find out whether she's using Zoom or Teams. So we'll check.
Okay. Right. Margie, it looks like you have another question.
Yeah, well, actually, more of a comment or statement. So I'm also part of some other coalitions, and before we start the meeting at the beginning, we put our name and emails and all that stuff in the chat box, and then you should also be able to in the chat box at the bottom there's an area that says file. You click it, you can save the chat that way also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And another trick that we use at Ward 3 for these, and for this session even, is you can create a Zoom meeting that you have to register for in advance, and there you capture your name and emails. So in that case, people can't get in the door without giving you their info. So that's another approach as well. That we've used to great effect. All right, Margie?
Yes, I'd like to use that little hand there. Have you heard if people have problems with when they're going to have a meeting, they don't put it out, the link publicly, but you gotta ask them for it? Has there been any complaints about that?
Not that I've seen, not that I've heard from this. We've, depending on the neighborhood and what their preference is, sometimes we've included the Zoom links in our newsletter, and sometimes we've included a contact to request the information. And I've not gotten any complaints either way for either approach.
Yeah, I would just want.
I was going to say, Sarah, I don't know if you've ever heard anything on that, but from what I've experienced, no, we've not.
So I was thinking more along the lines that it kind of helps prevent from somebody coming in and causing problems. So, okay, thank you.
All right, by my clock, it looks like we're about 2 minutes to the 1 hour mark. So if there are any final questions or comments, we will go ahead and wrap it up. And just a quick reminder, in the agenda that everybody should have received in the chat, we have our final neighborhood session, Ward 3 session for this academic year, we'll call it, is 2 weeks from now. It is deliberate strategies for inclusivity. My colleague Ernesto is going to be one of the point people on that session. So please go ahead and register for that. And I'm sure we'll say it then, but thank you everybody for joining us. This entire series, we've really appreciated it. We've learned a lot, and hopefully it's been useful for everyone else. But I'll stop there, and if there's any last questions or closing thoughts, we can go ahead and wrap it up.
A couple of quick ones. One for Nicole, real quick. Nicole, do you have the name of your neighborhood on the back of your Neighborhood Watch shirt?
No.
I was just curious. And in regards to Julsing, in regards to the homeless, who should be contacted? Should it be Jack or should it be Cliff Wade? Because this came up in a conversation throughout the week, and I'm familiar with both. I've lately been dealing with Jack, but I didn't know what the difference is in contacting Jack or Cliff.
Sarah, you want to take that one?
So Cliff Wade is working as a housing navigator right now, whereas Sergeant Julsing is responding to homeless encampments and cleaning them up for the most part. So it just depends on what is needed. I would say that if there's question, call your ward office, because we can help make sure that you connect with the right person.
Great. Margie?
Yeah, one more thing I forgot to mention when Rebecca was talking about those team up cards. I think I was able in the past to get the template for it and be able to type in that little box the information for meetings. So there's another way you can do that.
Okay, let me
Also-
check on that, and so we can have some instructions included. I've never done it. I did negotiate for that box, but I've never actually put anything in.
Well, I got it from
Christina?
no, the other gal, Bobby. I think what
Okay.
are the two?
Okay.
What are those two?
Okay. We'll work on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. And like I said, we'll hope to see you the next time. And everybody have a pleasant evening.
You too.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everybody.
much.
Thanks, Ward 3.
Great
Thanks,
meeting.
everybody.
Everybody stay safe and healthy.
Be well, stay well.
Stay well. Be well. May your neighborhoods be well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.